Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Israeli forces pound Gaza, killing at least 11 in 2 separate air raids on refugee camps and safe zones housing displaced Palestinians. South Korea's military says it has detected signs of North Korea preparing to send more troops and weapons, including suicide drones, to Russia to support its war against Ukraine. U.S. President Joe Biden commutes the death sentence of 37 of 40 federal inmates ahead of Donald Trump's return to the White House, who oversaw a sweeping number of lethal injections during his first term. Facebook and TikTok users in Vietnam will need to verify their identities as a part of strict new internet regulations that critics say undermine freedom of expression in the country. And Japan's auto giant Honda and its struggling rival Nissan agreed to launch talks on a merger, seen as a bid to compete with Chinese rivals and Tesla in the electric vehicle market. Hello and welcome. Our top focus is on Mozambique. The southern African nation is bracing for more chaos as the country's constitutional council rules on the October election result that triggered a wave of deadly protests. The constitutional council is expected to uphold the victory of the ruling Frelimo party's candidate Daniel Chapo. Now, Chapo will take over from President Filipe Nyusi, whose second term ends on the 15th of January. This validates the disputed results of the 9th of October elections declared by the country's election commission. As per the initial results, Daniel Chapo secured around 71% of the votes, and the main opposition candidate, Venancio Mondlane, stood second with 20% votes. This extends the ruling Frelimo's 49-year-long rule. However, Mondlane claims a separate count that shows that he won 53% to 36% for Chapo. The opposition leader had vowed chaos ahead of the Constitution Council's validation. Now, Mondlane has been in self-imposed exile since 2/3 of his associates were shot dead in the capital, Maputo, ahead of the initial results in October. It is unclear if he intended to return. However, the former radio presenter has been mobilizing nationwide protests on social media. Mozambique has been witnessing a severe post-poll violence as thousands on the directions of Mondlane have been protesting against the election results. At least 130 people have been confirmed killed in the violence. Police have been accused of using live bullets against protesters, and cities have been brought to a standstill. Power plants have been disrupted and operations with main border with South Africa have been halted. More protests have been called, and main cities, including Maputo, are reportedly bracing for a siege. Though the outgoing President Nyusi and the opposition leader Mondlane held talks last week, no outcomes were announced. Nyusi had instead said in an address that he was hoping that all sides will open their hearts to a constructive and inclusive dialogue after the Constitutional Council confirms the results. But will Mondlane's calls for chaos trigger a complete disorder in Mozambique? What will the political discourse in the Southern African nation look like going forward? For more on this, we have with us Professor Adriano Novunga, a director of the Center for Democracy and Human Rights, and he is joining us live from Maputo. Thank you for being with us, Professor.
Thank you very much for having me.
What are the potential scenarios following the Constitutional Council's verdict? I can hear you loud and clear. What are these potential scenarios following the Constitutional Council's verdict? And how likely is it that Venancio Mondlane's call for a popular uprising will gain traction among the population?
No, indeed, Venancio Mondlane has called for nationwide demonstrations following the indications that the Constitutional Council would stick with the results announced by National Electoral Commission. The expectation, having failed the call for dialogue that would lead to a national unit government, is for demonstrations that are not new for Mozambique. And for what we have seen in the past, in the recent waves of demonstrations called by Mondlane, it is expected that there will be a nationwide demonstrations leading to paralyzing of the economy, paralyzing of the economic activity, paralyzing the functioning of the state, including key economic infrastructures, including borders, ports, and rail. So the impact expected is massive.
Yeah. And Professor, how has the disputed election and the threat of unrest impacted Mozambique's political stability and also its relationship with regional and international partners?
Well, the current post-election crisis is already a regional crisis in the sense that it is impacting major economic corridors that serves not only Mozambique, but regional countries, South Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Tanzania, including Botswana, and also international players like corporate entities that have massive investments in Mozambique. They will be clearly very much affected. We have been calling for SADC as the regional bloc to play an important role steering a dialogue that could lead into a government of national unity, or you may call it whatever is more suitable, but at least that would signal willing to work together. But unfortunately, the door for SADC to play such a role was closed by Frelimo, which argued that the current crisis is domestic, which in reality is no longer a domestic crisis. This is now an international and regional crisis. So there is a clear missed opportunity here. There is a clear missed opportunity.
Yeah, and on that, Professor, what measures can the government and the regional bodies, like you've mentioned their SADC, take to prevent violence and to ensure a peaceful resolution to this current political crisis?
Well, as I've indicated, Mozambique's election have since 1999 led to violence because the quality of the election and the integrity of the electoral institution is not right. Mozambique's election are fraudulent. And this time it is the way it is because there is a robust opposition candidate who is appealing to the people, is a charismatic and is able to mobilize these. Also considering the country is in a major socioeconomic crisis, which has led hundreds of thousands of people to lose their jobs. So the appetite, the willingness for people to adhere to demonstration is high. Hence, calls from everywhere that the electoral institutions, including the Constitutional Council, should come together to steer towards a way of stability, again, that is missed. So there is a missed opportunity here to set things right.
Professor, thank you very much for your time and for being with us on Firstpost Africa.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Shifting focus to West Africa now, where a rift between neighbors Niger and Nigeria is widening. In the latest, the junta-ruled Niger has accused Nigeria of colluding with foreign powers to destabilize its neighbor. Niger's junta has claimed that Nigeria is acting as a base for destabilizing actions and that Abuja was involved in a recent pipeline vandalism that Niamey suffered. Niger also summoned the Nigerian envoy over the latest allegations. Earlier this month, Niger-Benin oil pipeline was attacked in Niger's Dosso region. Niger had claimed that forces based in Nigeria had assisted the Lukarwara terrorist group that attacked the pipeline. Responding to Niger's charge, Nigeria refuted its involvement in the pipeline attack. Abuja said that the attackers were neither backed nor assisted by Nigerian authorities. Niger also accused its former colonial ruler France of complicity with Nigeria and said that its neighbor had offered refuge to some French officials. To this, the Nigerian government said that there were no French troops in the northern part of its territory. Its foreign ministry said that the allegations were unfounded and should be disregarded. Ties between these two West African neighbors have been strained since a 2023 military coup in Niger ousted the president Mohamed Bazoum. The West and pro-West regional organization, the ECOWAS, promptly imposed sanctions on Niger. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, who is the current chairman of the ECOWAS bloc, briefly considered a military intervention to restore the ousted President Bazoum, further stoking tensions between the two countries. It also led to Niger's withdrawal from the Economic Community of the West African States, or ECOWAS. Niger, along with neighboring junta-ruled states of Burkina Faso and Mali, also quit the ECOWAS, set up the Alliance of Sahel States. In February of 2024, ECOWAS lifted sanctions that it had imposed on Niger, but that did little to sway the country back into ECOWAS. Niamey also reiterated its embargo in flights from Nigeria, stating that no planes from Nigeria would be permitted to land in Niger. Later, in August this year, ties between Niger and Nigeria showed signs of improvement as the two sides resumed security cooperation that had been on hold since the coup. However, the latest blame game between the two West African neighbors has once again strained their ties. And moving to southern Africa, where Zambia has arrested two men over an alleged plot to bewitch the country's president. Two suspects, a Mozambican national and a Zambian village chief, have been arrested by the police in Zambia's capital of Lusaka for allegedly trying to harm Zambia's president, Hakainde Hichilema, by using witchcraft. According to the Zambian police, the suspects were found in possession of assorted charms, including a live chameleon, and alleged practicing witch doctors. Now, the police said that the two were on a purported mission of using the charms to harm the head of state of Zambia. The Zambian police have drawn a link between the suspects and the opposition, and they allege that the two suspects who are arrested were hired by the brother of an opposition member of parliament, Jay Banda, who is facing trial for robbery, attempted murder, and escaping police custody to bewitch the president. The police also said that the suspects disclosed that they had agreed to receive a full payment of $7,400 from the MP Jay Banda's brother, who is also on the run. Now, the police have said that the two suspects would be charged under Zambia's Witchcraft Act for animal cruelty as well as practicing witchcraft in the country. Hakainde Hichilema has been the president of Zambia since 2021. The president has been accused of intimidating opposition, media, and arresting his critics. He has also been blamed for growing corruption in the country. He has survived an alleged assassination attempt while he was in the opposition in 2019. Now, local media reports suggest that the revelation of this plot sent shockwaves across the nation. Authorities have reportedly also urged citizens to report suspicious activities. But social media users chose to comment more on the arrest. Some users mocked the government on arresting wizards. The others called it a distraction from the real issues that the country is facing. The arrest of the two suspects also drew criticism from rights groups. The Advocacy for Alleged Witches, which is an organization that campaigns against witchcraft accusations and witch prosecution, said that the police broke the law and that the arrest was a waste of legislative resources of Zambia. It also demanded that the charges against the suspects must be withdrawn and they should be freed at the earliest. Now, witchcraft practices are widely believed to exist in Zambia. Many people in the southern African country reportedly believe in and live in fear of witchcraft. Not just Zambia, witchcraft is deeply rooted in cultures and communities of several other countries in Africa, especially the sub-Saharan Africa. However, over the years, the prosecution of witchcraft practitioners has also increased in these countries. In countries such as Nigeria and Kenya, witch doctors are hunted and sometimes even killed. The killings also drew UN intervention. Now, in 2021, the UN Human Rights Council passed a resolution condemning the rights violations associated with witchcraft practitioners. Now, the two suspects arrested in Zambia will be produced in court soon. But was witchcraft really used to plot the assassination of Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema? Or is the government trying to crack down on the opposition by linking it to witch doctors? And for our last story, we shift our focus to Kenya. Tech giant Meta is facing legal troubles in the East African country as moderating content on its social media platform Facebook has left some with lifelong trauma. Around 140 Facebook content moderators have been diagnosed with severe post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. This as they viewed several videos involving violence, sexual and self-harm content in order to keep it away from the users. Our last story gets you all the details about the case of Facebook versus its content moderators in Kenya.
Waking up as your phone pings and dozing off while scrolling your vertical screen. There's no denying that social media is a deeply integral part of our lives today. Consumption of content on social media has made space in our daily routines. Social media apps tend to feed you more of the content you like or spend time watching. Sometimes you're fed new content too. If you like it, it's added to your feed and you're fed more of it. Our feeds are supposedly a reflection of our choices, and these choices in today's world are infinite. So for every cute cat video, there are also posts of violence and hate speech. For well-informed, enlightening videos, there's fake news too. If there are last-minute food recipes, there are also videos of self-harm. There's entertainment, and there's sexual content too. Hence, the need for moderation. Social media giants hire content moderators to keep users away from inappropriate posts. While these content moderators make sure that social media platforms are safe for users, they are themselves exposed to harmful content. This exposure often has repercussions and in some cases even causes a severe impact on health. This is what happened in Kenya. Moderating content on social media platform Facebook has left some people with lifelong trauma. More than 140 Facebook moderators in the East African country have been diagnosed with severe post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD due to viewing violent content. These moderators worked between 8 and 10 hours a day and viewed posts involving murder, suicide, child sexual abuse, terrorism, necrophilia, and even more. These workers have filed a lawsuit against Meta and Samasource Kenya, an outsourcing company that was contracted to review content for the tech giant. The massive diagnosis was conducted as part of this lawsuit. Of the 144 content moderators who volunteered to undergo psychological assessments out of the 185 involved in the legal claim, 81% were classed as suffering from severe PTSD. Tech giant Meta has not responded to the medical reports, but said that it takes the support of moderators seriously. The firm also said its contracts with third-party firms do set out expectations about counseling, training, and fair pay. The outsourcing firm Samasource has also not responded. It was earlier also accused by its employees of unfair working conditions. The case in Kenya has once again highlighted the human cost of social media. The rise in inappropriate content has created a need for an increasing number of moderators, often in the developing and poor countries. This is not the first time that content moderators have taken legal action against social media giants. In 2021, a content moderator for TikTok sued the social media platform after she says she developed psychological trauma as a result of her job. The following year, TikTok was hit with another lawsuit from former content moderators. As concerns regarding the use of social media grow, many countries are mulling action against social media giants. Some have already taken action. In the latest, the Australian Parliament passed a revolutionary law banning social media for children under 16. Then earlier, Brazil banned X after a long-running dispute against owner Elon Musk. Norway has proposed raising the age at which children can consent to use social media to 15 years. Then France passed a law in 2023 requiring social media platforms to obtain parental consent for minors under 15 to create accounts. In 2018, Belgium announced 2 initiatives to curb the spread of misinformation online, while India banned TikTok and 58 other mobile apps in 2020. So, while content might be the new oil, regulating it is a huge task for nations and a bigger responsibility for social media firms as they churn out profits at the cost of humanity.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Hello and a very warm welcome. I am Gusheen Garland and you're watching Firstpost. In the next few minutes, I